Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is to continue the Notestrator app, the app that allows you to use one of these tablets to draw on top of your computer screen. So if you're doing a live stream, or if you are doing some sort of presentation online, or you are teaching, you can draw on top of whatever is on your screen, which can be useful for explanation and that kind of stuff. So last time we worked on this, I just noticed that my gain is super low and I'm super quiet. Isn't this better? This is a lot better. Anyway, so last time I worked on this stream, which was last Monday, I said that I would do some backlog grooming on my own, and then I would come to the stream and we would work together on whatever I came up with. But I didn't do that. So here is the backlog as we last left it. And we're going to find out together what we want to work on and just pick some low-hanging fruits. It's going to be one of those days. Just moving the ball along and keeping the project alive. So let's first test something that I'm interested in knowing. I did some refactoring and re-architecting in the previous 2 or 3 streams because I wanted to be able to pull some production dependencies into development dependencies. So the app is working here in development, but what I never did was to test that this would actually work in production, so when packaging the app. And exactly what I mean by this is that we have some code here in index.js that defines the drawing window, that defines the menu window, that defines which keyboard shortcuts to use. So here there is this shortcuts JSON file. And I'm treating this as sort of a static website generator of sorts. I noticed that the gain was too high, too hot. I think that this is about perfect. There you go. I changed my streaming setup slightly, so still tweaking things here and there. I'm always tweaking things here and there, both in terms of the code as well as in terms of the stream. In any case, the purpose of having this is that it's sort of a static website generator and it's only available in development. The purpose of this is that in production we can cut some dependencies like these dependencies, and we can cut some of the startup time because we just use effectively the cached files. That's what these are. They are caches. So I just tested and it works in development. But how does it fare in production? For that, I will say npm run build, which will produce a .app, and we'll try to run that .app from outside the project, completely independently of the project, and it will not have available to it, it should not have available to it, the development dependencies, like these dependencies right here. And I'm very confident that this will work, but it never hurts to actually try. And it seems like this is downloading some stuff and then packaging and blah, blah, blah. So while that is doing that, we can look at the backlog and we can see that this is a low-hanging fruit. We can probably tackle that. So we have that variable that we are using, this static website generator of sorts, which is a map. And then this is just collecting what are all the keyboard shortcuts in the app. Then we eventually write this to JSON, but then we have to do this handstanding to convert the map into an object. It's not too much code, but I think it would be better if we had this as an object to begin with. So that's what we are going to do. That's this item here. Okay, we are going to do that in a moment, but let's look at this to see what we have. So here is our .app. I'll open the gist folder and I will drop this into, well, nowhere in particular. And I want to move this out of the, I don't think it makes any difference, but I want to move it out of the directory tree for the project itself, because I want to make sure that this is not going to rely on the node modules I have over here. It shouldn't anyway, but it doesn't hurt to just move this somewhere else. And then we can run the app and it should just work. And it does. But the keyboard shortcuts are not working. So that is interesting. The keyboard shortcuts are not working. I believe the keyboard shortcuts are working in development. They are. So there must be something wrong with whenever we are actually reading this. So yeah, there must be something wrong here. And I believe it's going to be the fact that the default directory is the directory where it's looking for this file is not the current directory. Otherwise, it would have found that file. And I don't think that I can have any console output by double-clicking on the app. I will not have any console output to see the exception to prove that this is the case. But I suppose that I can just make this completely independent. I'll pull up a terminal, go to my downloads folder and remove me. And I can open an app from the command line. Yeah, but not even that gives me any console output. Well, I can take advantage of the fact that a .app is just a directory with a particular structure. So I can go to contents and then macOS and then Notestrator. So this is an executable that runs when you open a .app. And I wonder what kind of file this is. Yes, it's literally an executable. So I can just run this. And then this is going to give me some console output. And then it complains, no such file or directory. So I suppose it's looking at the current working directory, which is where I am right now, the remove me directory, which is not where we are going to find the shortcuts JSON file. Weirdly enough, Electrum seems to be doing some kind of magic behind the scenes, because check out how I start the menu window, for instance. Just look at menu.html, and I even have a to-do here. Check that this relative path works when the application has been packaged. It works. We just proved that it works. But I don't think it hurts to be more explicit, since we will have to be more explicit about the path here. And again, there is a to-do here. Check that this relative path works. It does not work. So I will be explicit about where to find this path, about where to find this file. And I suppose it doesn't hurt to be explicit here as well. Here's how we can do it. First of all, we need to require path. It is already required. Second of all, we need to go to all these places. I'm going to do this in all the 3 places. I guess I'm going to start with the place that is problematic, and if it does work, then I will adapt the other places as well. So in any case, where do I find shortcuts JSON? I can look relative to myself. So I can say path, join, and where am I? Well, myself is index.js, and I am in the root directory. So shortcuts JSON is a sibling of this file, which means that if I just say dir name, which stands for the current directory, and I look for shortcuts JSON in there, I will find it now. Well, to test this, I really have to install again. So not to install, to build again, build. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build, and I'm going to generate a new .app. So let me remove this old one. Don't want to mix things. Oh, and look at this. Isn't this interesting? This is, while it's building, it created, I guess, an image, and it loaded the image and everything. That is interesting. So under the build folder, we have a new .app, but it's not done yet. It's still working. And it's unfortunate it kind of takes a minute to build, because we need to build to test this. This is something that only happens during build. So we can move the .app, and then if it works, then the keyboard shortcuts will work. And it does work. All right. So that was a fair solution. We can now apply this same concept of path join dir name to the other places, and we can remove these to-dos while we do that. So there are two places where we have to do this, where we start the menu window, and then also where we start the drawing window. Not really where we start them, but where we load the HTML for these pages. And here we are. Now, does this work in development? It should. So I can still draw, and the keyboard shortcuts work. Now I will build for the last time. And while it's building, I know it's going to take a minute, I will commit the changes. I'm confident that this will work. I wonder if I should pass something else here. File path. Yeah, I remember seeing somewhere in Electron apps, they would use, instead of just passing the path, they would use one of those file URLs. You know what I mean? But it seems like it worked. So maybe it is, if you are using menu.load URL, then you could use the file URL. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so we are not doing that here. Let's go over the changes once more. Yeah, that looks good to me. And I believe the build will have finished. Oh no, it failed this time. Resource temporarily unavailable. That is weird. I'll just try it again. Maybe I will delete the dist folder and try again, but the problem was in a temporary directory, so yikes. Oh, so that is interesting. Up to this point, I was using a different computer for streaming, which was Intel, but this one is an M1 processor, so the build is slightly different. All of this stuff is the same, but then this is different. It's saying that it detected ARM, so this kind of file system is not available, which is the old kind of file system for Macs up to, I guess, 2-3 years ago. And then it means that the DMG is going to be created with a new kind of file system, which is only supported in this version of macOS or newer. Okay, and then we have, so it worked this time. It was a temporary, I don't know what was the failure before. In any case, keyboard shortcuts, are they working? Yes. Can I draw? Yes. And I wonder if there is a way for me to see if the dependencies that I didn't want to include really are not there. I guess this will be kind of hard because the packaging thing we are using called Electron Builder uses Azar, which is opaque. I could find the tools to open this file and actually see what's in there, but it is annoying to do that. And maybe there is something in the temporary directory where the app was built. Maybe we could look into there, and just by chance we have one of those in here because of the error that happened before. Oh, doesn't exist anymore, but this exists. But that doesn't help me because this is just literally everything that is temporary on my machine right now. Yeah, all right, that's good enough for now. So next, let's move on to this shortcut situation. It should be an object, not a map. So we need to change this into an object. We need to change all occurrences of this in the menu where we are binding these keyboard shortcuts. But then this will simplify stuff over here because we don't need to do this. We can just do that. Does this fit in one line? That's a game I like to play. No, it does not fit in a single line. But then we also need to go to every occurrence of shortcuts. So there will be a couple. There will be some. You can see here there are 16 occurrences in total. 3 of them are here. So there will be 13 keyboard shortcuts in the app. And we are going to go through all 16 of them and we're going to change the way that they work. So instead of being a map where you set, this is an object where you index into the object like this, and you assign a value, which will be this array. So that's the kind of refactoring that we are going to do. And if we play this refactoring correctly, we will run the app for development, which will run the static website generator sort of, which produces this shortcuts JSON file. But the shortcuts JSON file must be the same if we do the refactoring correctly. So let's go over this. Find all occurrences. Think I got this one right. This is different. It uses a literal string instead of using a variable like all the other ones. That's all right. Another case here where we have literally a string in place. Oh, did I forget to delete the closing parens on the other ones? No, that's all right. So only on that one. The purpose of this refactoring is mostly stylistic. It's not going to change anything fundamental, but I do think that it makes things better. Now, to prove that this worked, I can run the app again, and the keyboard shortcuts are working all right. But also, more importantly, I did not change shortcuts JSON. You don't see any changes in shortcuts JSON over here. So that proves that everything went correctly. And now the shortcuts is an object. Just double checking that everything makes sense. There you go. I love this. Commit. In fact, I think I should remove this from the backlog because I did it. There you go. Now, use execute JavaScript event throughout the application. I think that this is stale, and I think that at this point, we are using execute JavaScript everywhere. But not directly. So there are only 2 occurrences of execute JavaScript, as you can see over here. Only 2 occurrences of execute JavaScript in the app. That is because I'm using execute JavaScript through this evaluate event. Well, actually it's a function because there are some keyboard shortcuts that need to run this as well. What this function does is it receives a target and some JavaScript to run. So the target is which process. Maybe I should call this the target process. Or maybe I should just call it the process. Let's see how many instances of target I have in my code. 27, that's not bad. Could probably rename this target into target process. Yeah, I think I'm gonna bite the bullet and do this. Because, okay, so the purpose of evaluate is to completely break the separation of processes that is inherent to Electron. Electron has the notion of separate processes. One is your browser, effectively. You can think of it like the browser. It's not really a browser because it's an Electron app, but it is like the browser. And then there are processes for each one of the tabs. So that's how Electron wants your application to look like, the process tree of your application to look like. But I don't want to do that. In many places, I am in one window and I want to run code in another window. So that's why I have this evaluate function, which is associated with this evaluate event that I can just call from anywhere and it will run the code anywhere, either in the main process or in one of my browser windows or one of my main tabs or one of my tabs. And I believe there are only 2 places where I call this function. One is from here where I'm handling the event, and the other is here where I am setting up keyboard shortcuts. And I'm just forwarding this configuration thing, which is how I call the parameters for the evaluate function, a configuration. That's what this is all about. It's a configuration. So I think I'm going to bite the bullet and change this variable from target to process. Now there is another global thing in Node.js called a process, and it would clash. Yeah, so how about we do a big refactoring here? It's not going to be big. It's going to be quick. So I guess I'll call this the configuration. Not really. I think I'll just go with target being called process, and maybe JavaScript could be called code, because JavaScript is also another thing that clashes. We have a tagged template literal, which is JavaScript. Let's see how this refactoring would work out. I'm going to go to the first instance and start renaming stuff. And I could rename everything in one pass, yes. There is a button to rename all, but I find it advantageous to see the thing that I'm renaming when it is one of those things I'm not sure about. Fail to eval on process. Well, process not found. And because this is throwing an exception, it will have a stack trace with it. So it will have evaluating there, which will direct me to this location. So process not found. I think that's a good error message. Now let's see how our refactoring worked out, which is more or less looking at everything again. I guess I could call this variable like in process or something, but I would just call it process. I really like the ways that this looks now. Now there is this JavaScript thing. I could call it code. I guess JavaScript is a good name for this one, so I'm going to leave it as is. Now let's see. We are using the execute JavaScript event throughout the application. In fact, when I have like on, which is when I search for on, which is the thing that you would use to handle an event, to set up an event handler, I only have 5 instances of this word on my program, and they are all unrelated. And so we have someone on the chat saying hello. Hello, it's great to have you here. If you have any questions about what's going on, feel free to ask. And I hope you have fun. Okay. Also, not only on, but also handle. So that's another way you can assign an event handler. And yeah, with this, we proved that the only event handler, and therefore the only event in our app, is the evaluate event that breaks this separation of processes in Electron, as I explained before. So there you go. We are using the execute JavaScript event throughout the application. Only build the HTML, CSS, and client-side JavaScript in development. We are doing that only in development. We are checking if the app is packaged, and if it is not packaged, then we run the static website generator. Otherwise, we don't. Okay, that looks good. And now we have this stuff that is a dump of ideas from before. We need to do another styling pass on the menu. We need to work with some mouse modifiers, save the drawing to SVG and PNG. Okay. And then some stuff about undo and redo. And there is one more that I remember. So reset drawing should create an undo point. Undo, redo. So these are all points about undo, redo. Okay, now we have an option. We can either work on undo, redo, or do another styling pass on the menu. And then, yeah, some more notes and stuff we have to do. If you are watching me now, what do you think? What do you feel about doing? Do you want to work on undo, redo, or CSS effectively? I think I'm gonna work on undo, redo. I think that will be fun. Let's see what's the situation here. First of all, undo, redo works. I can draw some. I draw a couple lines, and then I can come here to undo, and I can undo some of the lines, and I can redo some of the lines, and that is great. Now check this out. I have this new line over here. And then when I reset my drawing by clicking on this button and I undo, I get back to the state where that line is not there. I have to redo. Oh, not even then. I just lost that line entirely. So undo redo is not working with reset. Well, it is, but there is a slight bug. And that's what I mean by reset drawing should create an undo point. In fact, why don't we go over all the things that the app can do and see which ones need to be covered by undo redo. As far as I can tell, only drawing with the different tools, but only drawing creates undo redo points. Yeah. And another thing that strikes me is that the app is a lot faster to start this time. And I was thinking maybe it is because of some of the optimizations I put into the app lately, but I don't think it's the case. I think it's because I am now using this other computer to stream, which is a faster computer. So that may not be ideal for development, actually, because on the one hand, it is faster to start, which is always nice. But on the other hand, it's less realistic because it is a state-of-the-art computer, not the kind of computer your average user would have. Well, in any case, so undo redo points should not be created for switching to different tools. That is all right. It should be created for drawing. It should be created for erasing. And it is created for erasing. But there is a problem. If you activate the eraser and you move your cursor around but you don't hit anything, you still create an undo point. So I can come here to undo and nothing on the screen changes in terms of the drawing. And that's because I activated the tool but I did not touch anything. So that's this other bullet point here. And don't create undo point if used eraser and nothing changed. It's not very well written, but that's what this is. And then fade, that's an interesting one. A fade creates an undo point. So you can see that in this mode, when I draw, the drawing goes away. But it does create an undo point, I suppose. Let me rerun this so I have a clean slate. So I'm going to put a big tool so we can actually see it, and I will enable the fade. And then, and maybe I will disable the fade for one drawing, and then another one. And then I will enable the fade, and it goes away. But then when I undo and redo, that point has been inserted into the undo redo situation, the undo redo stack, which is problematic because that line went away. And then if I undo twice, then it starts to affect the rest of the drawing. But in summary, that is an issue. The fade should not create an undo point because it's going to go away anyway. So it doesn't make sense to put an undo point for that. Yeah, so I'll take note of this. Don't create undo point for lines that fade. And then changing the mode of operation from drawing to interacting with the application underneath should not create an undo point, and it doesn't, so that's all right. Hiding the drawing or the menu should not create undo points, and they don't, so that's all right. And then turning off the app doesn't create undo redo points. Resetting the drawing is one of the things we already noticed, and then undo redo specifically, so yeah. And I wonder if there is a generalization we can make of things that must create undo redo points and that must not create undo redo points. And it seems like we have more changes over here. That is probably just a leftover from the refactoring where we renamed target to process. Yeah, that's what this is. So I think I will just commit everything. But let's think about this undo-redo situation. So these two items are related. Don't create undo point under certain conditions. And create undo point under other conditions. Just reorganizing the nodes. Trying to find that generalization. And I forget how we are even handling undo redo. I think that we have a function for that. Yeah, we have undo stack and redo stack, and we have create undo point. Then we have undo redo. So most of these things, I guess all of these things, are just places where we must or must not call create undo point. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. And then we can explore what happens if you hit Ctrl Z in the middle of drawing. That's an edge case that I don't care about too much. If you want to like draw and then have things, if you're just taking notes and you want to draw and Ctrl Z and draw and Ctrl Z a lot, you can just use the fade mode, probably. It would look even nicer because it would fade away. Okay, so let's see, first of all, where are we even calling create undo point? And it's only one place, which is nice. And then what we do when we create this undo point is to just get a hold of the whole SVG, put into the stack, and then truncate the redo stack. I'm missing a semicolon here. It's optional, but I prefer to have it there. Okay, so let's go to this. Create an undo point when resetting the drawing. That is easy. Let's see how we call this with this line. And then let's find the reset function, which is right here. So all we gotta do is call this create undo point right there. And I think that this fixes it. So I draw something, 2 lines, I reset the drawing, and then I can undo, and both lines will be there. That's nice. Yeah, that worked. So create undo point when resetting. We did that. And you can see a couple more changes here because I hit prettier, so I prettified my markdown. That's all right. This markdown is not pretty, so I don't care. So yeah, that was simple. It was nice. That feels good. But then don't create undo points under these 2 circumstances. I'll start with lines that fade because that is easier. I suppose it will be easier anyway. Let's go to where we are calling this create undo point guy. And we need to check what is our tool. Is it is it, well, not what is our tool. We can look at the settings and look at the fade. If the fade is enabled, then we don't create undo point. Let's see if this works. So if drawing settings fade, and let's see another place where we are using drawing settings fade. so we can get a hold of the possible values. The possible values seem to be false and then some milliseconds. So it's either going to be false or a number. So if what I want to do is check if this is false, and false is a string, mind you, because this is the value from a form, which is the menu. So if the settings fade is equal to false, then create an undo point. Yeah, so only create an undo point if the fade is false. So let's try this. I can draw one line and two lines and then enable fade, and then I draw another line and it fades away. But if I undo, then I undo the right thing. I have the correct number of undo points. You can see me click many times here, but when I click here just once, it works. So that's all right. Lines that fade don't create undo points. Looks good. Let's go to the next one. Now this is complicated, and I was hesitating before because this one is kind of hard. The problem here is, don't create an undo point if you used the eraser and nothing changed. So that is complicated because we typically create the undo point right away. We create the undo point right as we are about to start acting on mouse down. So if you click and start to drag, I create the undo point right in the beginning. The problem now is I must not create the undo point right in the beginning for the eraser, because I may not need to erase at all. Not that I may not need to erase. I may not have touched anything, so I may not need to create the undo point at all. I can think of two ways of doing this, and I don't know which way I prefer. I guess one of the ways is to create the undo point, but then undo at the end. Right? I can always create the undo point, and then at the end on mouse up, I have a function for mouse up. Handle mouse up. So on mouse up, I could check, is my drawing the same as before? If so, remove something from the undo stack. That's one way of doing this. So I create the undo point when I start using the eraser, and then I check. If I did not touch any of the lines, then I remove that undo point. And I don't undo, I remove the undo point, which is a different action. When you undo, you put stuff into the redo stack, and then that undo point, that nonsensical undo point, would end up there. It also has the consequence of truncating the redo stack. So calling create undo point has more side effects than just creating an undo point. And if we truncate the redo stack, we would need to do a lot of handstanding to get it back. What I want is not to create an undo point and then remove it. What I want is to not create the undo point to begin with. So this is, I guess, the second solution that I have in my head, is to check the tool. So if the drawing settings tool is not eraser and fade is false, create an undo point. So now if I am if the tool is the eraser, I don't create an undo point. And if the fade is not false, I don't create an undo point. So if I am fading, I create an undo point. No, if I am fading, I don't create an undo point. And if I am not the eraser, I don't create an undo point. Now, the consequence of this is that when you erase, you don't create an undo point. So I can draw two lines and erase one of them, but this does not create an undo point. So when I undo, I don't see any changes, and then I undo again, and then, yeah, I just lost that line that was erased, and I have a dummy undo point, which doesn't do anything. I can click once, nothing happens. I click twice, that line goes away. So I have a dummy undo point, which is incorrect, because the eraser does not create an undo point. Okay. But now we need to handle the creation of this undo point right as I am about to erase the first line. So I'll have to check. And it's not even that easy, because I have a hack here. Yeah, this is going to interact. This solution that I'm starting to cook up is going to interact in weird ways with another feature that we have that I have not actually mentioned in this stream yet, but it is if you hold down one of the buttons in the pen of the drawing tablet, then you are producing a right click, which we treat as the eraser. So you can just draw, or you can hold the button and draw, and that will be your eraser, which is super convenient. But the implementation is kind of a hack. So if we have multiple lines, and then I'm going to right click and drag, you can see that I switch to the eraser, and then it erases, and that's all right. But it's going, the implementation is kind of a hack, and it's going to interact badly with the other stuff that we have going on. And I could continue the hack, or I could take a step back and think about this. Yeah, let's take a moment to go over this code. It's not too much code, it's just a snippet. And we will see if there is a better way to implement this right-click feature, a way that interacts better with this creation of undo points and whatnot. So, first of all, I get a hold of the drawing, and then I say on mouse down, if blah blah blah, then create undo point. So the creation of the undo point is probably going to happen later. Then I have these functions, mouse move and mouse up, and they are functions that I bind to the mouse move and mouse up event. And on mouse move for like the pen, it will draw. On mouse move for the eraser, it will erase, that sort of thing. And mouse up, I don't even remember why you need mouse up. Let me see an example. Oh yeah, on mouse up, you start the fade, for instance. So I just have these as variables, and I know that I probably want to do the undo point stuff after. So I would just have these as variables over here. Or maybe even below. I don't know, it doesn't really matter all that much. Let's continue reading this. Then I have this handling of the right click. So I have an is right click variable. And the purpose of this is to encode this weird way of checking if you have a right click in JavaScript. You have to check the button, and it needs to be equal to this constant, this magic number 2. So probably that is the first thing I want to do, because that is going to affect the tool. Right? When you have a right click, it will change to an eraser. Next, we have this original tool, which I bet will be just, yeah, it will be to get back to the original tool that you had. So it's only if you have a right click situation going on. So I guess it makes sense to have this over here. and then this as well, right? This if is right click. So why do we even do this? Well, it is because we need to send an event to the menu when you right click. So check out what happens here. When I right click, it switches to the eraser momentarily and then comes back. For that to work, I need to go to the menu and I need to find the eraser and I click on the eraser. So all that is good. And maybe what I can do is right here, I can hard code. So the problem with this is this clicking on the eraser will send back a message to update the settings on the drawing. The problem is that this message doesn't arrive in time, doesn't arrive before we continue running this code, right? Yeah, let's double check this. So all I did up to this point was to reorder some stuff. I am putting the right click handling before. That's because the right click handling affects the tool and I want the tool to affect the creation of the undo point. So up to this situation here, I'm happy with what I have. I just reorder things that are independent, so that's all right. Now let me prove that this drawing settings tool doesn't update on time. Right here at this point, right before we start using the eraser. So the eraser needs to be set already. I'll alert whatever I have in terms of tool. So I have a pen, and when I right click, you can see that I still have a pen. It did not update in time. But I'm hesitating because this is an asynchronous function, and I suppose that invoke is asynchronous. So if I await for this, what happens then? Eraser. Oh, there you go. So it updated on time. But what is weird is that it's not coming back. That is weird. But now I can just rely on this. Then I don't have to do this hack, because the tool really will be the eraser. Let's try to find other occurrences of is right click, and the only other one is to get back to the original tool, which is not working. It's not getting back to the original tool. But let's for a moment just see if the thing is going to even act as an eraser. And it does. And it gets back to the original tool. So maybe it was the alert that was preventing something from happening. All right, that is elegant. I really like this. And it will not create an undo point. All right, I really like this. So when you have a mouse down, I check, do you have a right click? If so, I'll switch the tool under you real quick, and then I will get back to the original tool later. Yeah, that is pretty neat. I love this await. And I love how it cleaned up this hack. And I don't actually have other changes. There you go. All right. Moving on. Well, the issue persists. I am not creating an undo point if I have the eraser. Now at least I don't have interactions with the right click feature, but still, if the tool is the eraser, now I wonder if I should await for other invokes. Let me find all the places where I invoke. And let's check if it makes sense to await for some of them. Well, this function is not even asynchronous, and it doesn't really matter if we await or not. We're just removing event listeners. And and calling other event listeners. Yep. I think there is a better way of doing this handling. Instead of calling the thing, I could add an event listener for mouse up. It amounts to the same, but it looks better. In any case, I'm looking for instances of invoke, and this is only one thing, so function with a single statement, and it doesn't need to be asynchronous. It doesn't matter. And all of these other places are just me invoking evaluate right away. So yeah, the only place where I need to await is this one. Now let's consider again what to do with the tool, with the undo point of the eraser. So if my tool is the pen or the highlighter, this is the code that I run. And if I am the eraser, this is the code that I run. Oh, and this code is super neat because the way it works is it checks for collision between the cursor, which is the eraser, and any element on the page or any line. And it is looking under this. And what is this? This is the SVG with the drawing. All right. I was thinking that maybe it could include the custom cursor, but it doesn't. Okay, so moving on. It has different strategies for different kinds of tags. But then essentially it accumulates all the elements to remove all the collisions under this list, or actually under this set. I don't know why I use a set here. I could have used an array. I could have used a set is a good option, I guess. In any case, I need to check if the set is not empty. It means I'm about to remove an element. And if it is the first element I'm going to remove, then I create an undo point right before I start removing stuff. That's the way that this is going to work. So I'll have a variable called undo point created, which will start false. But then over here, if elements to remove has a size that is greater than 0, so I'm about to remove something, and it's not the case that the undo point has been created, then I will say that the undo point has been created, and I will call create undo point. And this guarantees that I will only create one undo point for the whole erasing session, from when you start clicking to when you let go of the pen, or when you put the pen on the tablet, up to when you remove the pen from the tablet. I shouldn't just call this create undo point, should I? Maybe I should, I don't know, let's see. How am I doing this in the other place? Yeah, I need to do this. But look at this, I already have the drawing going on, so I don't know why I do it like this. I could just do it like this, drawing, create undo point, which is a much better way of describing what I want. There you go. Let's see what we have. So I can draw, and I can undo. So that much is working. Then I activate the eraser, and I click around, but I don't touch anything. And then I can undo and redo. So it did not create a phantom undo point. But if I erase something, oh, it doesn't erase anymore. Oh, if I erase something, there you go. Then undo. The erasing has created an undo point. All right. This is not the most elegant solution, but it is a solution. I guess a more general way of thinking about this is when you click, you should have a mutation observer on the SVG. The mutation observer should look for elements being added or removed and create an undo point right before. Maybe that generalization could work. Let's, for a moment, explore Mutation Observer. Specifically, what we are looking for is a way to get a hold of the DOM element before the mutation. So we have the target, and then we probably need to look at the function that is called when you attach the mutation observer. The callback takes two inputs, an array of mutation records describing its change, and the mutation observer which invoked the callback. So there is no easy way for me to get a hold of the DOM right before the mutation. I have a mutation record that I could play in reverse, but I don't want to play that game. No, sir. So there you go. This is what we have. And we don't create an undo point when you used an eraser, nothing changed. So yeah, we will not try to do any magic with the mutation observer on the SVG. Instead, we'll just call create undo point when you want to create an undo point. And so check this out. We have something interesting going on here. First of all, let me see the changes. Okay. But we have something interesting going on. We have this if here that is effectively looking at the different tools and the different modes of operation and whatnot. So, and the reason why we have this is because the eraser should not trigger the undo point right away. But then right next to that, we have a switch on the tool that you have. So maybe this, there is a better way of doing this, which is, I guess, more explicit and requires fewer if them else's. So let's say it like this. Now this case is no longer necessary because if the tool is not the eraser, it's the pen or the highlighter. And then I just say if the fade is false, then create an undo point. And that's the case of the pen or the highlighter. In the case of the eraser, I will handle the undo point creation differently. Yeah. Let's check the app once more so I can draw and undo and redo and reset and undo and erase and undo and then draw some more and undo and reset and undo and redo. Yeah, that looks perfect. And we have fewer if then else's, and they make more sense. Not only we have fewer if then else's, but also we are, in the case of the pen and the highlighter, do we have the fade on? Like, this makes more sense to me. I think it is a better read. And then what happens if I Command Z in the middle of drawing? First of all, is the keyboard shortcut for that working? So I can draw once and twice and then Control Z and Control Shift Z, and that works. And then I start drawing. I did not let go of the mouse, so I'm still drawing. What happens when I Command Z? I'm going to trigger undo, and the last undo point was the drawing without this line. So I suppose that this line will just go away, and it goes. Now I'm going to continue moving the mouse and nothing is happening on the screen, which is perfect. I suppose that what's happening is I'm still adding points to that line that has already been removed. And then I let go of the mouse and nothing happens on the screen, which is perfect. And then if I undo some more and if I redo, if I redo, then I get to see that line, which I guess makes sense, right? Yeah, so I guess what happens when you Control Z in the middle of drawing? Exactly what you want. Mostly, I guess. Yeah, that looks good for now, actually. I'll just use this minutes that I have left to stream to go over the app once more, and we did some backlog grooming today and we implemented minor features here and there, but I wanted to do unpass in the app and see what are the things that we still need to do, absolutely need to do before we can start releasing, because I feel like this is getting closer and closer to the point where I want to do a release. It's not going to be perfect, it's not going to be complete, but I think it will be a 1.0. So let's go over the code base once more. It's not huge. It is 2,000 lines of code, most of which is just comments and parts of code that I will not touch now. So let's go over this again real quick. So if the app is packaged, I'm going to create the static website generator situation that I kept bringing up. Otherwise, I will wait for the app to be ready. Oh, this is interesting. Multiple, yeah, so maybe one thing that I can do is I can bring the most important to-dos into the README. So that's a pretty important one. In fact, I do have multiple displays going on right now, so I wonder what happens if I start drawing here and then I move my cursor to the other display. I cannot draw there. That makes sense because I only have a single drawing window, which is on top of this window. But I think I wished for... I can drag the menu to the other window. And I think I wished to be able to draw on the other window as well, which is annoying because I think that the solution for this may be to have multiple drawing windows. Yeah, let's see. Multiple displays, potential solutions. Multiple browser windows or a single browser window that spans across all displays. Is that even possible? If it is possible, I think it's a better solution. So that's me. When I start doing backlog grooming, I start thinking about the implementation of things. Sometimes I even implemented things if they are easy enough. But this one I don't think is easy. Yeah, can a single browser window be on more than one display? I suppose so. If I do something like this, no, it doesn't work. I am moving the window so that it is near the other window, but it doesn't show up on the two windows. Yeah, so it's not possible. Oh, I forgot to remove this directory. There you go. Yeah, looks good. So I don't think it's possible to have a single browser window that spans. It's not even possible to have a window that spans across all displays. I'll have to have multiple browser windows. Yeah, this is getting the primary display. I will need an array of drawing windows. But a single menu to control them all. So this is actually not that bad. So scrap what I was doing. I think I'm gonna work on the multiple display situation, because I think it will be fun. Yeah. What if instead of having a browser window, we had multiple browser windows? One for each drawing. How do we get a hold of the browser windows? Probably via screen. Displays, get all displays. Suppose this is going to return an array. It does return an array. So const drawings equals, and then map just like this, right? And I suppose that I will want to do this whole shenanigans as well. So that's necessary to have a transparent window on top of the whole display. So I will turn this into that, and I'll call this the drawing. Then I can copy these lines. And of course over here, I don't want to get a primary display. I want to do it on display, this display. And then at the end, I want to return the drawing. So now I have one browser window per display. Now I can get rid of this drawing thing, and then anywhere where I'm using the drawing, I'll have to map over things. So I have 52 occurrences of this. This drawing name, of course, appears in many places, most of which don't apply. I could probably just run the app and see where it breaks. But I think I have a clue as to what is going to happen. I think there is only one place where we actually access this directly, which is, oh, okay. So there is something here that we need to take care of. Can we have multiple parents? No, it needs to be a single browser window. And if I don't have the parent, then the menu will appear below the drawing window. But yeah, this is the place I was thinking about. It seems like it's not the only one. There are a few other places. Oh man. But it's not too many. I just need to map over them or loop over them. Yeah, let's deal with these situations one at a time. Let me find all the places where I need to do something. I will need to do something here and there and there. So 3 places. I will comment out these 2 places. Or actually, it doesn't hurt to actually just go and implement them because it's so easy. For draw const drawing of drawings, drawing show, or drawing, well, actually show in both cases. Maybe I should extract this into a function. wonder why I have this in two places. What's going on there? I forget. Yeah, if I already have a global keyboard shortcut, why do I even need this? I don't think I need it. I may not need it. I'm going to comment it out. We'll see. I'm starting to do 5 things at a time here. Let's see this place. Yeah, I suppose I can do a similar trick. I will just loop. Oh, but now I have multiple drawing windows. Which one do I want to return this thing from? Oh, actually, I never used this feature that when you call evaluate, you get back the thing that you asked for. I don't think I used this. I guess I would just accumulate it into an array. And there you go. I think I did it. But there are all these things that we need to consider now. Like, is this really necessary? Oh, it is really necessary. That is for the menulet that appears here. I want this to be one of the options. And I also want this to be a global keyboard shortcut. Okay. So now I'm ready to test. Okay, I can draw. And I can draw on top of my other display as well. Those are all great news. And I see no exceptions on the console. But the menu did not appear, so I think that having a parent is fundamental. And there was another place where we need to change the drawing into drawings. So it's in one of the 58 occurrences that we have going on. There you go. No, that's not one of them. Oh, I think I know what it is. Yeah, it's going to be these places where I'm trying to evaluate on the main process. So we have fewer of these to look for. So now this is sending an event to the main window and it's doing something on the drawing window. So I need a for const drawing of drawings. And the same here. And the same there. And this is acting on the menu, which is there is only one off. This is calling quit. Now all we gotta do is fix this, which I guess is easy. Well, it's not perfect, but it is something. I will come down here and I'll say if Screen get primary display. There is very little chance that this will happen. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the primary display somehow. Well, I guess I will map with an index, and I will check if the index is 0, then the primary drawing is equal to drawing. Quick hack, but now the first window, it may not be the primary, but the first window will have the menu overlaid. That is nice. And if I change something like the custom cursor or change the color, it works on either window. Oh, that was all right. Oh, but I still have an error on evaluate. Drawing is not defined. So you can still not quit. Here we are. Just need one of those loops. And now I can quit the app. No. Configurations is not defined. Oh, that was the wrong loop to copy. This is the right loop to copy. And now I can quit the app. See? Awesome. So I'm not in love with everything I wrote, but at least it's all working. So let's see, we have a for loop for drawings, looping over drawings, looping over drawings. Then what I'm not in love with is this primary drawing hack. I think there may be a more elegant solution for this. And then this returns thing I actually like. Now if you're, I want to rename this. So let's start taking notes of the things I want to change. So fix, not a fix, it's not broken. Improve on blah, blah, blah. Okay. And what else was I thinking about? Oh, yeah, the name of this should not be drawing, it should be drawings. So rename drawing to drawings in evaluate. So it is clear that you're going to run this JavaScript in multiple windows, one per display. I'm quite surprised by how easy it was to implement support for multiple displays. But it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. There's something else we have to consider. Oh yeah, so I probably have an item here for multiple displays. There are some things that don't work, I can tell. Undo, redo across displays. That is hard because I need to keep the undo, redo stack across the displays. and I need to keep track of which display has each drawing. And when I undo, if I have multiple displays going on, I draw something on display 1, I draw something on display 2, and I undo, I expect to undo on display 2 only. In fact, I expect the thing to sort of act as if I had a single canvas around all the displays. So I'll probably have to promote the undo redo stack from the drawing window to the main process and coordinate somehow. I don't know exactly how that's going to pan out. We'll see. But it wasn't too bad. And we did not finish, not by a long shot, the reading of the 2,000 lines of code that make up this app. But we worked on multiple displays, and that was fun. Okay, so I'm going to commit these notes and push my 22 commits for today and tell you all about the schedule for the rest of the week. Tomorrow I will be over at IDDQD Sound, the channel, the YouTube channel IDDQD Sound. We will be working on some JS effects, so audio processing in real time. It will be a lot of fun. Then on Wednesday, Aria from IDDQD Sound will be over here, and we will record Foley. We will record things like claps or something for the song that we have been recording together. And on a Thursday, I will come back to Notestrator. We will come back to this lovely log of stuff to do, and we'll continue chipping away at it. I think we're getting closer and closer to a 1.1 release. There are many rough edges, but mostly it is working, so I'm happy with that. In any case, thanks for being here, for supporting me by subscribing to the channel, by going to PayPal and Patreon and GitHub sponsors, and just in general being awesome. So yeah, I see you tomorrow over at IDQD. Bye.